Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. I think this is my first real tutorial that I wanted to do for you guys. I've been wanting to do a tutorial for a while now. Every once in a while on my Instagram account, I'll go live and maybe do sketches or whatever. Or if people message me and ask me questions, I do my best to answer um, the best that I can. Too many bests. Anyways, yeah. So I just wanted to do. I don't know, a semi-quick sketch, just using a Faber-Castell, or I think it's Castell or Castell, 8B pencil. It's right there. That's Faber-Castell. I read in, I think it was Andrew Loomis, one of his books. He said to use a soft pencil. So a soft would equate to, like, let's say a dark pencil. It would be darker in values, because you have more control in terms of how light you want the values to be or the lines to be, and how dark you want them to be in one pencil. And obviously that depends on kind of how hard you press, right? So if you were to press lightly and kind of lightly drag the pencil across the paper, you'd get a very light value, and most likely a thinner line. But if you were to put some pressure on it, you would definitely get a darker line and a thicker line as well. But yeah, so I'm trying to make it a practice of using a darker pencil, a softer pencil, and yeah. So, but you can use whatever you want to. You can see right here, this is the Mandalorian, and I forgot his name. I'm sorry, I should have been a little more prepared before doing this, but he's the one who says this is, no, he didn't say this is the way. He says, I have spoken. He says, I have spoken. And that's the Mandalorian, and they're riding their doggies. But anyways, yeah, I chose this picture because it has really great light and dark values, but it's still pretty high contrast, where the light is coming this way from the right, and as it hits the different surfaces, and depending on the size of the surface, there's more light area, but there's not too much gradation between the light and the dark. And I generally tend to like doing drawings like that, just because, I don't know, it just, what it does to my mind when I see those images, it just gives me the sense of depth, and a very dramatic feel. In fact, a lot of times if you Google dramatic light, you'll see pictures kind of like this, where there's a little bit of light and then there's a lot of dark. Or there may be even an equal amount of light and dark, but the light is very light and the dark is very dark. But yeah, so I've already started drawing the head right here. I don't know if you can see. Let me see. Zoom in. So yeah, I've started his head right here, and he's looking that way. I'm only going to draw the Mandalorian, just because I don't want to make this too long of a video. But yeah, generally what I like to do is, sometimes if I feel that I don't really have a grasp of what I'm looking at, and I think this is the case for a lot of artists too, and in fact, a lot of really great artists, they spend a lot of time looking at their subject, a lot of time, because they want to make sure they know what they're looking at. A lot of times, and I find this to be true for myself as well, is if I don't really know, if I don't really understand what my subject is, then it comes out wrong on paper. And that's like 99% of the time. There's every once in a while, it's unintentional, where I don't really understand what I'm looking at. It could be a certain part, like, is it a crease that goes in or out? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, how far out is, this compared to something else? But when I draw it on paper, every once in a while, it'll translate, and it'll make sense to me then. And then when I look back at the reference, then, it makes sense to me. But it's weird. I don't know. But most of the time, if I don't understand what I'm drawing, it's not going to come out right, and the values aren't going to be right. Um, you know, proportions not going to be right. You know, whatever. It's just not going to translate well into the paper. So, anyways, it's been a few minutes since I've started talking, and I want to get into this, but I just wanted to kind of explain to you some things that I deal with in terms of art. So I'm going to bring this a little closer. Okay. So I've already started drawing the head, and I understand that he is looking this way. He's looking this way, okay? So, got his head, so then I have to make sure that it's proportional, you know, in terms of, you know, little things like the distance between his little visor right here and the top and the bottom, and where this front little gap, you know, on his helmet goes, and am I getting the roundness right, you know? Now, I like to use a little bit of artistic license, I guess. And I use that term lightly because I generally try, at least, I do a lot of realism, not hyper-realism, but just realism. And so, you know, part of my job as a realism artist, I feel, is, you know, to kind of let the viewer know that they are looking at a at least semi-accurate depiction of the original subject. Right, so here I'm seeing, what I tend to do is I kind of glance back and forth. So that's one way that I can see that something's off. So right now, as I glance back and forth, I'm looking at this part right here, which is his right shoulder, but to us it's his left shoulder from our perspective. And it needs to kind of stop, maybe like right here. So find myself, you know what, I should use a micron. No, but then I already started with, I don't know. I don't have my brush with me either, so. But yeah, it kind of goes up a little bit, and then it kind of, so it's like this, and sometimes I kind of eyeball it. Actually, that's a lot of what I do is just eyeballing it, kind of. And I'm still getting used to spacing between certain shapes, you know, that I'm observing. So obviously you got the head right here, right? And then I have the upper torso right here. I have the neck right here, shoulder, his traps right there. And then we got his shoulder muscle right here. That right. There's a little gap. And he's got his arm in front. His other arm comes down like this. But this one looks like it slopes way down because he's only wearing the one big shoulder pad, and then the one on his left, it is a much smaller pad. And I think if I remember correctly, this is before he upgraded on his armor. He was promoted. Just color this in a little bit. This is a much darker value. So just and his shoulder comes like this. And then I see a line right here from elbow to elbow, that kind of the top of his forearm and the bottom of his bicep. I see a line kind of going at this angle, and so sometimes just to help me, give me a little bit of better idea of reference, I'll draw a little line where I see a connection. And we can go ahead and erase that line. Does it need to be there? Actually, it shouldn't be there because it's not there on the original reference. I'll just keep going down. Let's see, it's dark over here. It's dark there. And I just realized. So I didn't take a long time looking at this image. So his hands take a lot of practice. I think sometimes you get it, at least for me. Sometimes I get it, and then other times, like no matter how much I try, I keep failing at them. That obviously means that I'm not consistent with my practice of drawing hands. So mine looks crappy, which I think it does. Forgive me. But if you don't forgive me, it's okay, because I am forgiven by Jesus Christ. Alright, so okay, so now we're getting so I've got most of the Mandalorian right here. He's got his little knee, rather is that his what is that? Let's see. Oh, it's his. So he's got like thigh armor, and it's going over to the other side of the thigh, kind of. Probably not much, but okay. That's gonna go down. Now sometimes, let me see, what would help me in this case? So I mentioned earlier that sometimes spacing for me, it's a little difficult. I have a hard time doing it sometimes, so I have to give myself like reference lines. So in this case, don't know if you can see it. So right here, from the top of this creature right here, this line, that it separates his, the bottom of his torso and the top of this creature. There's a line right there. Okay, so we'll call it like an invisible line. Actually, it's not invisible. If you look closely, the artist actually kind of drew it a little dark right there, but right here, you can see his leg, his right leg, our left, goes down to about this thing's, is that a nostril? That is eye. See? Oh, his eye. Okay, so these things kind of look like not iguanas. Iguana? Chameleon. Kind of has the face of a chameleon a little bit. His eye is right there. So the distance from his eye to the top is about the same as the height of the Mandalorian, actually, from here to here. So I just take this, okay, go like this, and then bam, that's where his eye is at. And it's pretty dead center. Well, it's not actually, it's a little off to the side. It's like right here. His eye is right here. So then now I have a better reference, right, as to where, like let's say his brow, part of his brow, even though it's really big, you can see right here on this side, it's barely catching a little bit of light, and that's because his snout or his nose part, it's coming out farther than this in relation to the light source. And so I think actually, if this were in real life, maybe this light would not even be here, but for dramatic effect or to kind of translate to the viewer better, a sense of mass, I guess, for this creature, he kind of put some light on it. So I'm going to make a pencil. I'm going to make a little outline of that. And then, so now I have that as a reference. Then I can look up a little farther and say, okay, well, this is not that much farther up, so I can just do this, right? And then see this line right here, kind of like a V laying down right here. I see like a backwards C, and then a regular C like this, and then like that. And then there's kind of like a soft point right here. It goes down like this again, goes past this brow, and then starts to slope down more, like that. And then right over here, around here, I see this shape right here. And then that tells me I need to fix this. I wish I had a... Hold on. Where's my other eraser? Eraser? Where are you? Where are you, my sweet? I'll just use this. So I can erase this bulge right here. And as I'm looking at it, I'm glancing back and forth, I can see that it actually comes out a little more. This angle comes out a little more, like this, and like that. It's pretty accentuated. I don't know if that's the right word. And this comes out here. That's actually not supposed to be dark right there. And then that goes in. There's another kind of divot down right there. It comes out like this, like that. And then the mouth. Up and down. And there's eye. The opening goes like this, gets a little narrower as it goes back. And it's got messed up teeth. Another one, it's a little center. And it seems like there's another gap like that, there's a gap like this, there's a gap right here, here, and then bam. Like a little lip comes down. Now I obviously drew this too far down, but I'm just going to try my best to do what I can with it, because I don't know, sometimes I feel like you can still, you know, even if it's like, let's say off center or something, you know, and you drew it too low or to the left or whatever, there's still something you can do with it. Anyways, I should get back to, and there's like a little strap right here that comes down from, there's like utility belt. And this angle, this leg comes down like this. Now I'm gonna try something. I'm actually not gonna draw out his leg. I'm just gonna have it all in the dark and see how that looks. Gonna give it some kind of dramatic effect. Okay, so now, this right part of his upper thigh, or his hip, I guess, it's almost, this little point right here, the apex, is right at the level of the eye. So I'm going to do the same thing. And it just drops like this. Drops to about the bottom, a little below the bottom of the eye. So it's like right there. And then bam. And I'm gonna fill this in. So here's a little tip for you. If you hold the pencil up close to the lead, it's better for making little minute details. Actually, some people would actually argue that it's actually better to do it the other way. But the other way is to hold the pencil way out here. I like holding the pencil like this. It took some getting used to, but I do like holding it like this. One of the reasons is because when you make long strokes like this, like right now what I'm doing is I'm hatching, right? A hatch is it's a line, okay? And then when you make other hatches, you make lines that are parallel to that line, right? And that's generally what shading something in is you're just making a bunch of lines next to each other. But for hatching, you want to make them all going in the same direction. And the farther from the lead you hold the pencil, the easier it is to make these straight lines. I'm just going to fill in his teeth too, or finish his teeth. You don't have to make this exact. I mean, as long as they just look out of place, I think. Okay. I'm going to try to go a little darker. Oh, I haven't drawn with pencil in a while. I've been working on a project lately, so I've been kind of using my iPad more, but I miss doing traditional, traditional stuff. So I want to come back to it and maybe hopefully help somebody out who wants to practice drawing or maybe just needs a little bit of guidance, and I'm all for that. This looks like he's riding a fish. He's riding a big goldfish. Okay, so now we know that he's got his spear rifle right there. And it makes a straight line, so you can use a ruler. I know people that say don't use a ruler, but honestly, if it's supposed to be straight, yeah, do the best you can to get it straight. And if you can, try not to use a, a ruler, but there's no shame in it, you know. I know a lot of artists like to shame each other. There's a lot of competition, and you know, there's a lot of Schadenfreude, you know, but yeah, if it works, it works. But I would say try not to depend on those kinds of tools too much. Now, if you're in the industry, that's a different story. You know, I think yeah, if you've got it, you have to get something done. You know, and you have a time hack, and you know, the client or whoever wants it a certain way, or your art director wants something a certain way. You know, and they want straight lines, or they want good circles or ellipses or whatever, and it takes tools to get it right, then do it, because you know they're not there really. You know, in terms of the work world, yeah, they do want you to learn as you go along, but they want mistakes down to a minimum, you know, and client generally doesn't care if you cheated, you know, you just do it. And there's that. Sometimes what I like to do is I'll go in with like a maybe like a white marker or something, and kind of bring out the highlights. And sometimes the dilemma is, okay, do I bring out the highlights here, or do I bring out the highlights here? I haven't really decided yet, but I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so I decided that I want to accentuate his highlights. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill in just the light parts of him and this creature right here. What I'm gonna use is, I think I'm just gonna use a Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen brush, white 101, and got a black cap, and away we go. So I'll start, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll start up here. I'll just start painting in the light parts. This thing's kind of dirty, so let's bring out the lights. This part is light. And part of his hand is actually kind of light, so this is not really coming out that great. Okay, there you go. There you go. And some of under here. There's some right here. There's his hip shield. Right here. And there's some light that comes down here, and then angles off over here. Goes down, goes out a little bit, and continues down. And give it some effect of, you know, roundedness there. Some right here. right there. Kind of accentuate this part. Fill that in. So what I'm just basically doing is I'm just trying to translate onto this paper where the light is hitting. And instead of just, you know, kind of filling in a bunch of places, really just try to figure out where the light is going, where it's hitting the most, and attack it. Okay, so this light is a little more right here. So right there. Now these Pit Artist pens, you kind of have to go over them in layers sometimes, so to get the maximum amount of opacity. But once it starts drying, you get it. And then I almost forgot the lower lip. Right there. Again. And this one very lightly. Like that. And there's some catching of light on his rifle. Kind of down the bottom of the rifle. And I think that's it. And then you can go back and erase this arrow I put right here. And sometimes, I think some people, they also like to do the outside anyways. So, but, you know, that's your choice. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. I hope I was able to at least convey something to you. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me, message me, email me. All the information's on my Instagram. It's at Jin Park Art on Instagram, and you can also catch me on Facebook, Jin Park Art, at Jin Park Art, and on Instagram and Facebook. And you can email me too. My email's on my Instagram profile, but just in case it's artpark720. That's art, ARTPARK 720 at gmail.com. Hope you had a good time, and stay tuned for my next tutorial. Catch you later. So what I did here was I wanted to capture more of the darkness of the shaded area and kind of make it stand out a little bit. So I went ahead and I filled it in with marker, and then I outlined it with marker as well. So and then I took a white marker and I just kind of scribbled around the background just to make it pop a little more. So yeah, there you have it. Thanks again for tuning in.